Hey, tough break, kid. You got AIDS. Here's a peppermint.
If there's one thing that I appreciate about Team Fortress 2 is its vast variety of fun and unique weapons. Sure, a lot of other video games also have their amount of fun and unique weapons, but a lot of the time it boils down to it's the same as another weapon, but with a few number tweaks. And while Team Fortress 2 also has its own amount of weapons just like that, there's still plenty of unlocks that can change up how you play and approach certain situations. However, one overlooked category of weapons are stock weapons. Everyone starts with them, but oftentimes with the first unlock, many new players will move on from them, and veteran players will often categorize them as these are the good ones and these are the bad ones. So it got me thinking, are all stock loadouts obsolete, or they can be just as good as a loadout using unlocks? Also, just a bit of a heads up, a lot of the footage here has been filmed on community servers instead of casual mode because if only we had a quicker way to play the game. Starting off with Scout, we have the Scattergun. It's easily the most used primary as it has the highest clip out of all of his other options, and with consistent damage, it gets picked more compared to his other options. There's not a whole lot else to say here, chances are you too use the Scattergun quite often as well, so let's move on to the pistol. Another great option being a nice source of bonus range damage. Now the pistol does have some competition with the other pistols, such as the Pretty Boy Pocket Pistol and Winger, along with other options like the Mad Milk, Sodas, and Flying Guillotine. However, I still think the pistol is a solid option, and while I personally prefer the Pretty Boy's Pocket Pistol, having 12 shots means that reliability isn't a huge concern with it, meaning it pairs well with the Scattergun. But then we have the Bat. Now yes, there is the Holy Mackerel, which is technically a direct upgrade, however the ability to see the number of times you hit someone in the kill feed is only really viable in a few instances, so it's not that big of a deal. However, sometimes just having good solid damage in the instances you need to wail on someone makes the Bat a good option, but oftentimes many players would prefer utility or function over damage, such as with the Atomizer, Boston Basher, and Rap Assassin.
I'm dying here!
All of which provide either a utility or a more unique function that boosts Scout's gameplay. Still though, the Bat isn't the worst option in Scout's melee slot, but can oftentimes get overlooked in favor of better long-term options. Overall, stock Scout's an incredibly solid loadout, so I rank him at the top. Also, yes, this is a tier list video, I fooled you all. Moving on, we have Soldier. And right out of the gate is the rocket launcher, easily one of the best damage dealers in the game, being able to handle both crowd control, single targets, and taking out engineer buildings. While the rocket launcher can provide other benefits, stock is the easiest to understand and master for anyone. As for his shotgun, while it is good for finishing off enemies or close range combat where rockets would hurt you, the stock shotgun does have competition from the Panic Attack and Reserve Shooter. Now the Panic Attack I see as a side grade on Soldier, performing better at moments of needing quick damage, but worse at range due to the fixed shot pattern. But for the Reserve Shooter, I personally think is better, as it's just the shotgun with a faster switching speed and mini crits on airborne enemies, in exchange for 2 less shots in the clip, all of which I personally think fit for Soldier a lot more, making it generally better. But then there's also the boots and banners.
No, not you, Seamus. Ah, poo.
While these do not make shotguns obsolete, it should be noted the rocket launch can generally hold its own in many encounters, and because of this, it does make you think before deciding on what's the best option to bring for you. And for me personally, I prefer banners over shotguns most of the time. Again, the shotgun is still solid, but there are many other solid options too. And then there's the shovel. Honestly not the worst, but when better melee options like the disciplinary action, market garner, and escape plan exist, and getting melee kills on Soldier isn't the most common thing, there's a reason most people run these over it. Stock Soldier is definitely strong, but there's other unlocks that improve him, so he gets the good tier. Pyro is interesting in the fact that he pretty much gets ranked almost the exact same way as Soldier, but for entirely different reasons. First is the Flamethrower. Another solid primary option, but what's interesting that all flamethrowers are solid in a different way, whether it be rewarding flanking, good aim, combos, or ruining the enemy team's day. But stock's biggest claim to fame is that it has the cheapest air blast cost at only 20 ammo. Every other flamethrower punishes air blast in one way or another, so stock is the best used when needing to do things such as reflecting projectiles, extinguishing teammates, or pushing enemies off cliffs. It's solid. As with Soldier, Pyro uses a shotgun too, But unlike Soldier, who uses it as a close-range backup damage, Pyro often uses the shotgun in tandem with his flamethrowers, often as a finisher while enemies are burning to death. And just like Soldier, Pyro used the reserve shooter and the panic attack. However, the reserve shooter is generally weaker on Pyro due to enemies needing to be airborne via explosives, meaning it's just a shotgun with a faster switch speed and 2 less shots. Not the worst, but generally less interesting. The panic attack, on the other hand, is way better. Because of the faster deploy speed and the use at closer ranges, it means that it can output way more damage than stock on Pyro due to him being a primarily close range class. There's also flare guns, but they're more of an alternative to shotguns, rewarding good aim and combos and being effective at most ranges. Still, stock is good, but with more competition. As for the fire axe, it's the only weapon in the game with a direct upgrade being 3rd degree. Even if it was not an upgrade, it really doesn't make stock any better. It's not the worst in the slot, but it's by far the most bland out of Pyro's melees. And if a Pyro is running the stock melee, chances are they're running a reskin, specifically the Objector, with interesting images on it. So Pyro gets ranked the same as Soldier, a good loadout, but with some better options. Demo has the best stock loadout. Like, straight up, all of his stock weapons are good. In fact, Demo Man as a whole only really has 2 bad weapons. You can thank me or Match for why they suck. But first, the grenade launcher. While some do prefer the Iron Bomber for the lack of rollers, it's still good, as being able to deal 100 damage at any range makes for a good weapon. Who would have thought? And it pairs greatly with the Sticky Bomb launcher. Speaking of which, it's easily one of, if not the best weapons in the entire game. His other secondaries are good, in fact I personally prefer the Quickie Bomb launcher, but many demos opt for stock as it has the best combinations for uses like spamming, trapping, area denial, and clearing out any engineer nests. Now you might think that for the bottle, it would be getting the same treatment as the other melees we have talked about. But because Demo Man is technically 2 classes in one with Demo Knight, most of his melees being swords means that they are only really viable with the shield and on stickies. Sure, there's the Pain Train and Caber, but the Pain Train is only viable on attack, while Caber got nerfed so much that it looped back around to being a Demo Knight melee. So stock is Demo Man's best melee by default. No shock at all, but stock demo is going straight to the best class tier. Heavy stock loadout is one of the weaker stock loadouts. Obviously, like other stock loadouts, the primary is good, and it's also my personal favorite, mainly because, well, I am biased. And while many do prefer the Tomislav's improved accuracy, faster spin up, and no noise, I for one prefer when my minigun sounds angry and ready to fire. Still, it's a good option and very viable. For the shotgun, however, unlike Soldier or Pyro who use them as a backup source of damage, or for combos, Heavy can't really do that. Due to his slower weapon switching speed, he mainly uses shotguns when traveling from one location to another, where revving up a minigun would take too long. And while yes, the sandwich is king, I actually do personally like running shotguns. They help negate a lot of Heavy's downsides, but if I'm gonna be running a shotgun, I would probably be running the Panic Attack or Family Business. Due to Heavy's slower weapon switch speed, the Panic Attack helps negate it. On top of that, but a lot of players do actually underestimate a Heavy with a shotgun, oftentimes just thinking that a Heavy is memeing around as Fat Scout, so you actually take advantage of the closer damage. And for the Family Business, the higher clip size and faster firing helps with countering Heavy's slow movement speed. Now yes, a shotgun is a shotgun, so stock isn't terrible, but it's the weakest when compared to the other two. And again, lunchbox items are going to be a lot more viable, since being able to heal yourself in your team, especially as a large target like Heavy, is a very good thing to have on hand. As for the fists, they're fine. They do have one of the coolest reskins in the game, and they have a taunt kill, so that gets them some petty points. On top of that, but the ones that do provide utility do have way harsher downsides compared to other classes. Seriously, I fucking despise health drain. But just like other melees, most people would still pick utility and just deal with the downsides that they get from them rather than pick the fists. Plus, even beyond the utility, there are still better melee options such as the Killing Gloves of Boxing and the Holiday Punch. Overall, I still think Heavy does good with an all-stock loadout, but that's mainly because your minigun will be doing most of the work. Engineer is bland.
Not bad, but bland. Now his true primary is his sentry gun and other buildings, so your weapon's main role is to defend them and yourself from any incoming attack. And they do that job well, but the problem comes from them not being that interesting to talk about. Your primary is the shotgun, which is good, but is shared with 3 other classes. Your pistol is a nice source of bonus damage, plus it has 200 reserve ammo, but is also shared with Scout. And your wrench, while it is good for keeping your buildings up and it does a good job at it, it's also just a normal melee. Better than the rest, sure, but it's basic. I know I'm kind of speeding through Engineer's stock loadout, but really what else am I supposed to say? Even just swapping one of these weapons out will make for a much more interesting Engineer loadout as a whole. There's not really a whole lot to say about Engineer. I think the most interesting thing to say about his loadout is that you can actually have a strange PDA, which can cost upwards of $250. Why? The only way the PDA is worth $250 is if there's a $150 Engineer hooker sitting in it. So Engineer gets the good tier.
I can make this work.
Okay, Medic is by far the weakest of the stock loadouts. Now, Medic's job is to heal his team, and if you just stick to your Medigun, then you will do a generally good job, as the Medigun is the most popular because after all, 8 seconds of invincibility is really good. And with all Mediguns having a different type of Uber charge, it means it literally doesn't have a contest beyond preference of what type of Uber you prefer. The real issue comes with the Syringe Gun and Bone Saw. Starting with the Syringe Gun, the problem is that it just kinda sucks. Now yes, the crossbow is king, and more healing options and long-range damage is pretty dang good. But I do like syringe guns, mostly because I use the crossbow so much that I kinda burnt myself out on it, and now I only use it on a few occasions. I do agree syringe guns as a whole could use a small buff like passive reload, but I don't think they need some major rework to be viable, as the role is to defend yourself when caught out alone. But if I am running a syringe gun, I use either the Blitzauger or Overdose. Not only do they provide a bonus utility like healing or movement speed, but the downsides are barely even a factor. If you want to split hairs here, you could say there's some specific instances where the downsides could affect your gameplay, but let's be honest here, even if the crossbow did not exist, a vast majority of the player base would use either the Blitzauger or Overdose, and barely anyone would use stock. And while I understand that stock weapons are supposed to be the vanilla option, I won't lie with the fact that I don't see any issue with giving the stock syringe gun one more bonus stat. Nothing major. Especially with Medic having the smallest loadout possibilities at only 13 weapons total, I don't really see an issue with giving the syringe gun some small buff to make it more viable, beyond not being baseline. But as it stands right now, the stock syringe gun is easily Medic's worst primary. As for the Bone Saw, on the other hand, it exists. It's not the worst because the Vita Saw exists. But even if the Uber Saw didn't exist, most players would gravitate towards the Amputator, plus the Solemn Vow exists too, which while not a direct upgrade, there has never been a single moment a player has thought to themselves, darn that 10% slower firing speed penalty, I might have to take the Bone Saw with me instead. Overall, an all-stock Medic is decent. If you're just sticking to your Medigun and only use the Syringe Gun and Bone Saw for self-defense, it'll get you through many incidents. But it's also decent at doing that with many better options, so Medic gets ranked decently. I suck at Sniper. I also think he should be nerfed. I know, how original of a TF2 player. Like, I can get a couple of headshots and decent kills around, but ask me to lock down a choke point or take out a medic or engineer, and you're better off not even having me on the team at that point. I am trying to improve, but it still ain't easy. So forgive me if I come out as biased throughout this segment. But to start is the stock sniper rifle, which is good, obviously. Now, while all sniper rifles have some different functions, and some even make you play sniper entirely different, they mainly do the same thing. Click on enemy's head, get cult slurs and chat. So much so that a good chunk of the player base thinks it should be nerfed. And I agree, cause a class that you can barely engage with that's far away in a mostly close to mid-range game that can instantly one-tap 5 out of the 9 classes can be very frustrating to deal with. However, the true bias comes to the SMG. While I do see it get used often, a lot of the time better sniper players will opt for a backpack or even the Girardi. But as someone who isn't the best at sniper, having a source of bonus range damage that's rapid fire pairs nicely with the sniper rifle, where there's no chance I'll be able to land a close range headshot. I also do run Girardi a lot, and oftentimes more than the SMG, but mostly as a deterrent more than anything. Still though, I like the SMG. Also, there's the Cleaner's Carbine, but nobody cares, so moving on. And last is the Kukri, which is generally Sniper's best as all of his melees were designed around damage rather than utility. Bushwhacker is arguably better than stock, but it's only really good with 2 weapons, and without them, it's worse. The Shaw's damage can be a bit too inconsistent for some players liking it, and the Tribalman Shiv is certainly a Shiv that a man in a tribe would use. So yeah, stock wins by default. Overall, stock Sniper is really good, arguably too good, so he gets the top of the list.
And last but not least is Spy. First the Revolver, which is pretty dang good. Now Spy is interesting in the fact that he uses his revolvers as a utility and bonus damage rather than primary damage, as that's what knives and watches are for. Because of this, other revolvers like the Diamondback, L'Étranger, and even Ambassador, if you can hit your shots, can often be considered better, especially by better Spy players. I also suck at Spy too, but not as bad as much as Sniper. But that doesn't make stock bad by any means, as it has the highest damage output and one of the only 2 revolvers that can random crit, so it's good. For the knife, it's good for the simple fact that while it doesn't have any major bonus utility, it also lacks any major downside that affects your survivability or reliability. So go figure, it gets used across the entire Spy spectrum, from the best players to noobs. Better spies will often prefer the kunai or big earner, but for your average Spy player, they'll oftentimes gravitate towards stock. For the watches, they all provide a good utility, and having 10 seconds of invisibility is good, and Sapper's only competition is the red tape recorder, so by default it's the best Sapper. And because of this, an all stock Spy is good.
So, are stock loadouts still viable? I would say yes. While most of these can be improved greatly with some unlocks to either make them more effective or interesting, there never really was a moment where I felt like I was at a major disadvantage. Thanks to teammates supporting me or just being good with the loadout already, I found all of them to be still effective. And while I like most of these, I probably won't go back to using full stock loadouts for everyone. Even just using some of these stock weapons won't happen too often either outside of specific loadouts or feeling guilt for not using them. But in spite of this, I still did enjoy using them, and even the weakest of these still got me through a good chunk of rounds 9 times out of 10. But anyway though, that about wraps it up for this video. If you liked it, be sure to smash that like button and hit the subscribe button too. And in conclusion...